So excited to have you guys here. Today, we're going to talk about identity over output. Identity over output is when we tie our internal worth to external validation. We get our identity from what we're performing and what we're providing, for everybody else. And how do we break that cycle? How do we lead from a place of I am worthy no matter what, which is my tagline, which is my ethos, which is something that I live my life by. So we're going to jump in today into identity over output. This is where we're going to talk about the hidden cost of tying your worth to your results. Okay, what that looks like, make sure you're in the right place. And then we're going to leave you with a little resource today. So I want you to ask yourself a question, and I want you to make sure you grab a piece of paper, your notes app, or whatever it is you're using to take notes today, and ask yourself, who are you on the days that you're not producing? Meaning, who are you on the days that you're not checking things off your list, or you're not going live on Facebook, you're not producing content, you're not on sales calls, you're not proving yourself. In other words, who are you when you're not, quote unquote, being useful to everyone else? What feelings does that bring up for you? Does it have a feeling of laziness around it? Does it have a feeling of loss of integrity around it when you're not producing? Do you feel like you're slipping backwards on days when you're not producing? I just want you guys to have some awareness around the feelings that are coming up for you when I ask that question. Who are you on days when you're not producing? Okay. So I want to make sure that you're in the right place. This training is for you if your mood changes based on how productive you are. So if you're really productive in your office one day or at home and you're on top of the world, I got so much stuff done today, versus if you get nothing done that day and you Netflix and chill, how is your mood around that? Does your mood fluctuate based on how productive you are? Does rest make you feel guilty, anxious, or behind? I know a lot of times when I lay down to take a nap, my mind can't stop racing. I should be doing this. I've got to do that. Oh, that's one more thing I have to put on my to-do list. And it's worthless for me to lay down for 20 minutes. Sometimes I can knock out for like 2 hours. Great, no problem. But other times I sit there for 20 to 30 minutes and I think this is ridiculous. This isn't doing anything for me because my mind is just racing. You secretly use achievement as proof that you're doing okay. So how many of us look to the results that we produced to see if we're doing okay in life? You want success without tying your worth to performance. This is a big one, you guys. You want success without tying your worth to performance. Because there's so many of us, this seems to be an epidemic these days, that we're tying our worth to how well we show up in the world, to how well we perform. I've talked about this in the past. There's such a thing as inherent wealth. It's something you're born with. Think about when you see a baby come into a room and everybody drops to their knees for that baby. So sweet, so beautiful, gift from God, hasn't done anything for you, right? Hasn't performed for you, but it's worthy. That's inherent worth. You keep telling yourself, once I get caught up, then I can breathe. And here's the reality of that. You're never going to get caught up. And that's the good thing, right? That means that you are still alive and you still are growing. You're still expanding. You still have things to do. You're never going to get caught up, ever. You might have bouts of where you get caught up on your email, or the dishes are caught up, or a big project at work is caught up. But overall, you're never going to have a blank to-do list, ever. And that's a good thing, right? So what about if you were able to breathe while you're doing all those things? What if you were able to relax a little and feel worthy while you've got that to-do list going on? Okay, you're in the right place if you're ready to stop using productivity as proof that you matter. I see this so many times when, especially, this is something, we're going to talk about this in a minute, but this is something that we're indoctrinated into very young, especially as women, right? Is she just a stay-at-home mom? Right? Because that productivity is tied to our worth. And people see the world sees people that stay at home with their kids as not very productive. Couldn't be further from the truth, right? You're in the right place if you want to lead, build, and succeed without your identity rising and falling with your results. Darren Hardy wrote a book called The Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster. And it just talks about the highs and lows in your business. But which is not a bit, that's just to be expected when you're building a business. You have the highs, you have the lows. But what we don't want, what we want to stay away from, is tying our moods to those highs and lows. Okay. So who am I to be telling you all of this? My name is Heather Morrison. I call myself a worthiness warrior. I'm a speaker, and I help women leaders rebuild internal worth first, So they stop outsourcing their value. They stop tying their internal worth to external validation. So they can reclaim their voice, step into visibility with boundaries, one of my favorite words, power and self-trust. Okay. So this isn't just a productivity habit. This is an identity pattern. When productivity starts feeling like proof, okay, of who you are and how much you're worth, when achievement becomes emotional regulation. Again, we talked about the how much you got done today dictating your mood. Okay. We talked about results become a measure of safety. So if you think I had a great month this year, I can pay my mortgage, that feels safe to you, right? Slowing down feels threatening instead of neutral. And we're going to talk about data versus feelings in a moment. Okay? If your worth rises and falls with your output, your confidence will always be conditional. Your confidence will always be conditional, right? It's based on a condition. It's based on something else, okay? In order to achieve that rock solid confidence, you cannot attach it to your productivity. You cannot attach it to your results, right? You can have mood swings. You can get happy when you make a sale. That's fantastic. You can get happy when you, or have a sense of completion when you finish something. But if your worth is tied to whether or not you got that project done, that's when the problems come up, okay? So we're going to talk about this today. How do we reset this? This is called the productivity worth conditioning loop. So most women don't consciously choose this path, okay? And this is what I said, it was conditioned, it was indoctrinated. We were indoctrinated from a very young age to get praise for being capable. This started in kindergarten, you guys. This started before kindergarten. This has started when you first took your first walk. Yay! Okay. And then we went off to kindergarten, then we went off to school, and our worth became dependent on our grades. Some people pay for grades, right? You get an A, you get $25, a B is worth $15, an F is worth $0. Translation, especially to a young child, you're not worth very much either. So this starts at a very young age. We get that reward for over-functioning, right? She works her tail feathers to the bone. That's something that is looked at like highly regarded, right? She's an overachiever. We get valued for being useful, right? You're such a wonderful mommy's little helper. You're such a wonderful help around the office. Okay. We get that conditioning all the time, that reward all the time. We learn that performance is approval. And then this doesn't stop once we leave school. This continues on when we get to work, when we get to the office. We get rewarded and praised for our productivity. So how could we not become addicted to that? If this is the loop all the time, how could we not become addicted to this? Right? We didn't necessarily choose this. It was something that we were conditioned to get into. We internalize the I only matter when I produce. Okay. Again, that baby didn't produce anything, didn't add to your household income, didn't do the taxes, can't change your oil, can't make a sale for you. Okay. And yet it matters. And then as we get older, we learned that it doesn't matter. What matters is how much you do for the rest of the world. Okay. So what starts as competence can quietly become your identity. I'm going to say that again. What starts as competence can quietly become your identity. And this is what the loop sounds like. Okay. Once I get caught up, then I'll relax. Once I get all my to-do list things done, I'll breathe. I just need to do a little bit more and then I'll feel better. I can rest after this launch, this project, this week. If I'm not producing, this is a big one. If I'm not producing, I'm wasting time. Right? People will say to each other, what'd you get done today? Instead of, who were you today? What did you do today that lit you up? That's not the question that's ever asked. It's, hey, what did you do today? Or I feel so good, I got everything on my to-do list done. And we also start talking to ourselves and saying, I should be doing more. Okay. The goal keeps moving because productivity can soothe the fear, but it can't solve the identity problem. That productivity is a quick fix. It's a Band-Aid on proving your worth to yourself, to the world, to your clients. We often confuse busy work with productivity. I used to do this a lot. I'd sign up for a program, not work the program, but I'd create all the binders and I'd get my Google Drive all fleshed out so I could stick everything that I'm learning in that course into those Google Drive folders. Right? I get all this stuff done. I'd spend hours doing all of that because that to me looked like productivity. It wasn't, it was just busy work. But to me, I was doing something. I'd never actually worked the program, but I'd create all of the back end materials that supported it. I was productive that day. I meant something because I did something. This is what we're telling ourselves. I meant something because I did something. Okay. When your worth gets tied to your output, that rest feels unsafe, right? You lay in bed taking a nap and you can't rest, or you're up at 3 o'clock in the morning worried about something, or you can't get to sleep at night because you're still in your office on your laptop or in your bed on your laptop, working till 11 o'clock at night because you've got to get just this one last project done, because then you'll be worthy enough to give yourself rest that night. Do you listen to how crazy that sounds? That you have to earn rest? But this is what we do to ourselves, right? When your worth gets tied to output, success feels temporary. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to where they'll say, well, I got that done. We'll talk about her doing something. Then she'll come back and she'll say, I got that project done, but now I'm on to this. It's like, whoa, did you sit in that and celebrate yourself for a while? No, because that's not where the reward comes from. We get the hurrah and we get the wonderful and congratulations. And then it's quickly followed up by, what's next? What's next on your agenda? Now what? It's like, geez. Right? So that success feels temporary. Boundaries feel selfish. Oh my God. Boundaries are one of my favorite words. And boundaries aren't selfish. Boundaries are not walls, they are filters. It's an expectation that you communicate with other people and with yourself. And I think this is where a lot of people miss the mark in terms of boundaries. You need to have boundaries with yourself as well. And a boundary is just nothing more than an expectation of what you will and what you won't accept in your life. That's it. That's all a boundary is. But those feel selfish when your worth gets tied to your output. Because again, you don't deserve that nap until you finish up what you're doing. Slow seasons feel useless. Right? Going back to Darren Hardy's entrepreneurial roller coaster, that's natural. Right? It follows the seasons. It follows life. It follows the ocean. It follows nature. There's just seasons of slowness. That's just inherent. But we don't look to those as useful. They're useless. Well, that was a wasted quarter. We discount the lessons we may have learned during that time, okay? Because there was no productivity during that time. Your confidence becomes fragile. Again, when you're tying your worth to output, your confidence is conditional. I want you guys to write that down. When you're tying your worth to your output, your confidence becomes conditional. Okay. And lastly, leadership gets driven by proving instead of steadiness. Okay. You're not rewarded for the consistency of, I come to work every day, I show up, I give it my all. You're rewarded by your productivity. You're rewarded by how many clients you sold today. You're rewarded by how full your coaching program is today. You're rewarded by how many clicks did you get on social media today, instead of just showing up and doing your job, right? Or showing up and doing something that lights you up. Okay. This is a big one, and this is a big turning point. I often say that big doors swing on little hinges. I don't know where that saying came from, but I love it. Metrics are data, not identity. That's a big door. Metrics are data. They're not your identity. Revenue, engagement, productivity, performance is data. That's all. It's just feedback, not failure, just feedback. It is not proof that you matter. It is not proof that you're failing. It's not proof that you're behind. It's not proof that you're enough. It's just data. Business data is not personal identity data. I'm going to share with you a real quick story. So you may have heard this or not, but this is about an old farmer. And he had, 3 or 4 horses. And one of his horses ran away. And he lived in a small little village. And the villagers came to him and said, oh my gosh, that's so tragic that your horse ran away. And he said, maybe yes, maybe no. And I thought, well, you're crazy. What good could come out of having a horse run away? But okay. The next day, that horse came back and brought two wild horses back with it. And the villager said, that's fantastic. That's wonderful. Now you've got two extra horses you didn't have before. And the farmer said, maybe yes, maybe no. And they looked at him like he was crazy again, right? And so his son was trying to tame one of those wild horses. It bucked him off. He broke his leg. The villager said, how horrible is that? Your son broke his leg. And he said, maybe yes, maybe no. Okay. Now they're thinking he's a crackpot because his kid broke his leg and he's thinking that's not a bad thing. The next day, the army came through the village and they recruited all of the able-bodied people. And because his son was not able-bodied, he was not recruited into the army. And the villagers said, hooray, that's wonderful. That's great. He doesn't have to go fight in the war. And he said, maybe yes, maybe no. That story so beautifully illustrates the idea that the data, that feedback, the event that happened is just an event. That's all. Kid broke his leg. We're the ones that attach the meaning to it. Really want you guys to understand this concept because once you do, this is huge. Brian Tracy has an equation for this. He calls it E plus R equals O. The event plus your reaction creates the outcome. Okay? The event happened. It's neutral. Kid broke his leg. Your reaction to it is going to dictate the outcome of the scenario. If he had reacted to it and said, that's horrible, and let's go get him fixed, and blah, 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 and then he came back and he was healed, then the output would have been, he would have been able to fight in the army, right? So the event happened. That data that you're getting back, that revenue, how much money is sitting in your bank account, what the scale says, how many likes you have on Facebook, that's just data. It's neutral. We're anthropomorphizing this. We do that with the animals when we attach a human, like, oh, he's so sad, or he's so happy, or he's so, right? We're humanizing our animals. We do this to data as well. We make it mean something. It's just a metric. That's all. It's just a measurement. Okay. So I really want you to understand that. When metrics become your identity, a low sales month becomes I'm failing. Or a quiet room becomes I'm not impactful. A slow season becomes there's something wrong with me. An unfinished list becomes I'm dropping them all. Okay. What's interesting is that I found my husband on Match.com 20 years ago. And when I would go on online and find somebody and date somebody, and then it didn't work out, instantly, I would think, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Meanwhile, I can guarantee you that guy wasn't thinking that way because they realize it's just a numbers game, right? Data, just data. It's just a numbers game. You might date one person and fall in love on Match.com. You might date 400 people and not fall in love, right? But we, especially as women, turn to ourselves and say, what's wrong with me? Versus the guys that are like, I don't know, maybe she's a lesbian. Like that, and I'm not kidding with that. I've heard that before. Because they don't internalize it. They just go, whatever, next. Okay. So we internalize all of this. Must be my fault. Must say something about ourselves. Okay. When we have these questions, when we have these judgments on ourselves, this becomes a matter of what does the data say about me? Okay, what does that mean? As opposed to just, I didn't make that many sales that month. I don't have that much in my bank account. Okay, that's just data, neutral. Okay, versus what does this data show me? That's a more powerful question. Not what does this mean about me, but what is this data showing me? What needs to be adjusted? What's not working? What support is missing? What matters most right now? Do I need to bring in a VA? Do I need to adjust who I'm talking to? Do I need to, figure out what my demographic is again? Do I need to reach out and get a coach? Right? That's just data. That's the only thing data should provide for you is just feedback so you know what your next move is. It should not provide your worth or your identity. Okay? Because when it is providing your worth and it is providing your identity, that's crushing. That's a crushing blow. This is why when I say we don't need another strategy, we need to raise our standards. Because we tend to think, what's wrong with me? I'll go just find another program, or I'll just go sign up for this, or I'll just go sign up for that. Okay. And all of that is wonderful and that's fine. But then when that doesn't work, again, we pull it back to what's wrong with me. Okay. I don't know. Maybe you didn't have a good coach, right? Maybe the messaging you're putting out is not landing correctly. Maybe the people that you're targeting aren't the people you should be targeting. That's all, right? Doesn't mean you're not a worthy human being. Okay. So now what? Now that we've determined that you're in the right place, now that we've determined that this is what it looks like, this is how it shows up in your business and your life when you're tying your identity to your output. Okay. So now what? Now we install that identity over output standard. Okay. This says we have worth before our performance, worth during our performance, worth after our performance, right? Worth all the way through. Worthy no matter what. We have identity before we have output. We have self-respect before results. Okay. And I'd like to add self-respect regardless of results. Just a result. Doesn't mean I'm a worthy human being regardless what is in my bank account, what is on my scale, how clean I keep the house, how many vegetables my kid ate today, how many raises I get, how much money I make. Okay. This standard says that my worth exists before productivity. I do not earn my value through exhaustion. I do not need a performance to justify rest. Okay. That rest needs to be built in to your systems. You shouldn't have to work yourself into a lather and to totally deplete your energy systems in order for you to justify a rest. By that time, it's too late. You are so overworked and overwhelmed. Okay. Results can guide me, but they do not define me. I love that. And I'm not saying don't have a plan. That's not what this is about. I'm not saying do not have a plan or an intent. Okay. Those things can guide you, but they shouldn't define you. Okay. This is the old standard versus the new standard. Old standard, perform first, then feel worthy. This goes back to grade school. Get that A, and then we'll figure out how worthy you are to your parents or to the teacher or to society in general. Do you see how far back this has gotten? How far back the reason why these are like little tentacles that have conditioned you over your entire lifetime? It's no wonder we're in the situation that we're in. How could we not be? Okay. The old standard says we produce first, then rest. If you're tired, go take a nap. It shouldn't be, I'll work through this 400-page, proposal before I go take a nap. No, go take a nap. Because it's going to help you be more productive, right? It's going to help you get that thing done. Old standard says you achieve first, then you trust yourself. You should trust yourself from day one and all the way through the process. The old standard says you prove yourself first, then you feel safe. Okay. Because once you prove yourself, then you get that approval and then you'll feel safe. What's interesting to me is when we post stuff on social media and then we go check it during the day. How many likes did I get? What kind of comments did I get? And we allow other people's opinions of us to mean more than our decisions, to mean more than our feelings about ourselves. We let that person who you will probably never ever meet in person, who has so many things going on in their life that they feel they need to go on Facebook and criticize yours, we let those people mean more to us than our own opinions. That's when you can really tell that your identity is tied to your output, right? Or that you get into a tango with them. I have yet to be in a tango with somebody on Facebook, and I've stopped doing it, where they'll all of a sudden in the middle of their conversation say, you know what, you're right. Right? But that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to prove ourselves. No, I'm right. I'm worthy. Stop doing that, right? Surround yourself with the people who will edify what you have to say. And I'm not saying this is to set up confirmation bias. That's not what I'm saying. But you want to surround yourself with people that are going to support you, right? The new standard is worth first, middle, last, always. Self-respect first, boundaries first. Action from a grounded identity. This is why it feels really exhaustive to a lot of people, is when you're continually trying to do action, but you don't have your identity figured out, you don't have your standards, you don't have your boundaries figured out, You become a pinball. Every situation is new. Every situation has to be metered, engaged. When you're solid in your confidence in your boundaries and who you are as a person and understanding you're worthy no matter what, everything else, you just apply that standard to everything that comes into your life. Super easy. Okay. When worth is no longer up for debate. I love this. We don't negotiate our worth, right? Rest stops feeling dangerous. Okay. Boundaries become easier. Trust me. Confidence stabilizes. It's not conditional, right? It's not up and down based on what your performance numbers say. Your slow seasons stop feeling like an identity crisis. It is what it is. Again, stop attaching meaning to it, right? Doesn't mean you've changed as a person. Doesn't mean you've just because you don't have people buying this month, right? Decisions become cleaner, far cleaner. Again, when you've got your boundaries and your identity and all of that tied up and it's rock solid, those decisions just become easier because you're working from who you are as a person, right? Not what you feel you need to prove, not what you think the other person needs to hear, not what you think the other person is going to say that you're kind for saying or kind for doing. Okay. One of the things that I have trained on in the past is that, well, I don't want to say that because I don't want to seem bitchy, right? I say what I say, and then how they take it is entirely up to them. Now, here, please hear me when I say this. Please understand this. I'm not advocating for you going around and being a jerk to people. I am not a jerk to people, but I stand up for myself and I stand up for my boundaries. And here's my favorite quote of all time, ever, ever, ever. And please write this down on a post-it note. The only people who will have a problem with you having boundaries are the ones who benefited from you not having any in the first place. I will say that again. The only people who will benefit from you not having boundaries, the only people who will have a problem with you not having boundaries are the people who benefited from you not having any in the first place. Okay, that's a big one. It's a big indicator when you put up a boundary to someone that they haven't, you haven't had a boundary there in place before, and they start going, and it's human nature on their end, right? They're going to go, wait a minute, this isn't how it normally is. I always get my way with this person. What? And they're going to push back, and that's when you know your boundary's working. Oh, great litmus test. Okay, this is what identity-led leadership sounds like. I still care about the results, right? I'm not saying that you just throw up your hands and say, well, it doesn't really matter if I don't make any money this month. That's not what I'm saying at all. Just don't use them to measure your worth is all, right? You can look at the numbers without making them mean something personal. Rest is not a reward for overworking. Rest should be built into your system so you don't get to the point of overworking. I can adjust strategy without attacking my identity. Oh, this is so good. Can't tell you how many people that I talk to that feel they build a program, they build their systems, and then they go out and they think, well, this is my demographic, this is who I want to talk to. And then they go to a different group and they think, oh, no, maybe this is the demographic I should be talking to, even though they don't want to work with that person, right? I worked with a woman once who had a healthcare business, right? She was a healer, a naturopath, and she sold supplements, but she also wanted to start selling crystals. She wanted to incorporate crystals into her healing process. And I said, well, that sounds amazing. That sounds fascinating. You sound like you're really into that. What's stopping you? And she said, I don't want to make the Catholic Church mad. And I said, are you targeting the Catholic Church? Is that your demographic? Are you actively going after them? She said, no. I said, right? But then it sounds ludicrous, but this is what we do to ourselves all the time. Well, I don't want to make somebody mad. And if they're mad, they're probably not your audience. That's okay. No worries. Move on to the people that are, right? Okay. So I want you to ask yourself, where do I most often look to productivity for proof that I'm okay? Is that your scale? Is that your bank account? Is that your social media metrics? Is that how many sales you've made this month? Is that how many calls you've made this month? Okay. And again, no judgment. Data is just neutral. Just ask yourself, where are you most often looking? Okay. What results have I been making mean something personal about me? So what's that thing that first comes up when you get a client that answers back and says, thanks, but no thanks? What comes up for you when that happens? Do you stop and say, I'm a failure? I knew I never should have done this. My fourth grade teacher was right. I'd never amount to anything. What kind of feelings come up for that from you? And what would change if I treated my worth as settled before I worked? Again, when you come at something with rock solid boundaries and rock solid identity, okay, and a rock solid standard, okay, you treat your worth far differently because it's not up for negotiation. Okay. It needs to be there before the process, during the process, and far after the process. So your output may fluctuate, but your worth does not. I want you to hear that. Your output may fluctuate, but your worth does not. Your energy will change, seasons will change, results will change, paces will change, your prices will change, your environment will change. Maybe your program will change, who you talk to will change, right? All of those things might change, but your worth never changes. Okay. Your worth is not supposed to be renegotiated every time your productivity changes. Okay. So what's next? After we talked, I've been chatting for a good full half hour now. Thanks for sticking around. But I do want to leave you with what's next. Okay. So I have a free resource for you. And just to let you know, I don't do coaching anymore. I am solely focused on speaking. So I want you to know that this is not something to get you on my email list so I can constantly try to sell you into a coaching program. I'm not doing coaching program anymore. Why? Because I sat down and figured out, really dialed in on my identity, and something wasn't working for me with coaching. Couldn't figure out why. Finally figured out why. And it was such a relief to let it go. Okay. And I want that for you as well. So again, free resource, no strings attached. It's the identity over output reset. Okay. It's a free guide. So you can stop using your productivity as proof that you matter. My whole goal in my life is I want women to love themselves as much as they love everyone else. Okay. So we're going to talk about the 3 shifts from today's training, just to be a synopsis of what we did today. So you guys don't have to go back and take a bunch of notes. Reflection prompts. I love prompts. They're so helpful. Reflection prompts to uncover your productivity worth patterns. So remember when I said, where do you look to find your worth? It'll help you with those. A simple reset practice for when output starts feeling like proof. Let me just let you know right off the bat. Anytime something changes, and you've probably realized this, your paradigm, which is your thought process, is going to push you back. Why? Because that's where it's safe. When people talk about a comfort zone, it's really not a comfort zone. How many of us are actually comfortable in our comfort zone? Right? It's a familiar zone. We're just familiar with what goes on over there. We know what to expect over there. Might not always be comfortable, but at least it's familiar. We know what to expect. So anytime you start changing, whether it's, January 1st, you're going to lose 50 pounds in the year, whether it's you're going to quit smoking, whether it's going to, you're going to make $250,000 this year, whatever it is, that's a shift from what you're currently doing, you're going to get pushback because this is something new. And our lizard brain still hasn't evolved enough to realize that this something new is not a saber-toothed tiger. Your mind sees everything as a perceived threat, especially when it's change from what you normally do. So just expect that going into it. One of my coaches really helped when she said, start talking to that. When it starts showing up, that anxiety, what are you doing here for me? Like, why are you showing up? There's a reason you're showing up. What are you trying to tell me? What's your purpose here? Okay. And to say back to it, it's okay. I got this. We're chill. I know this is something new for you. I know it might be a little uncomfortable for you. You'll be fine. Why? Because you're worthy no matter what. Okay. So reset. I love resets. I love resets for when you go down that road. Not if, but when you go down that road of, oh, I could feel myself going into that pattern again. A little reset. Okay. To get that guide, just comment identity. Just comment identity in the chat and I'll make sure you get that guide. Again, it's not something for me to get you on my email list so I can contact you and try to get you into a coaching program. Nothing wrong with that. People build billion-dollar businesses on that process, but that's just not my process anymore. So I just want to be very transparent and clear with you. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it served you in some way, shape, or form. And I want to let you know you did it. In today's day and age, let me see if I can do this correctly. Stop share. Whoop. Okay, I think we're good. In today's society where your time is the biggest commodity and your little eyeballs are being begged to be pulled in 18 different directions, I appreciate your eyeballs being here today, that you took time for you, that you took time for you to realize that there's a change you want to make in your world, that there's a change you want to make in your life. And I applaud you for that effort. So if there's anything I could do for you, please reach out and let me know. Excuse me. And again, comment identity in the chat. We'll make sure you get that guide over there. And I really appreciate you guys sticking around with me today. And we will see you again. Take care. And please remember, you are worthy no matter what. Bye.